So we are going, we're good?
We're keep
Okay,
going.
so, we are live today from the Educational Resource Center. It's a new location for us. Next month, we are gonna be at a different location and you'll get the information on that as well. Thank you for being flexible, because of the construction going over on Prosser, we kind of had to shake it up a little bit, so, let's continue. I guess we'll just keep going, and Mike, you want to go ahead and introduce your speaker?
Okay, we're very fortunate to have Luke Pearson, who is a naturalist, and his work spans many of the environmental sciences. He currently works as an educator over at the Louisville Nature Center, and he also works at Cave Hill Cemetery in Arboretum. He also serves on the board of directors for the Louisville Audubon Society, whose goal is to promote a healthy management of natural areas and environmentally sustainable practices throughout the greater Louisville area. Luke has studied ecology at Colorado State, and he also worked at North Cascades National Park in Washington State. And then he came back here to Louisville, which is his hometown. So, in his free time, he likes hiking, recording wildlife sounds, and working on his home aquarium. So, if you'll allow us to welcome Luke, and he's going to tell us all about native grasses. So, take it away, Luke.
Great. Thank you very much, Mike.
All right, Luke, hold on. I can't hear you, which
Okay.
means it's something on my end. And I will figure this out in a second. We had this happen before. Say something now, Luke.
Okay. Just let me know if
Nope,
what I need to do.
Still can't get it. Okay.
All right.
Well, hold on. I gotta. Remember, I had this issue the last time. Okay, Luke, say something now.
Hello.
Ah, no, dang it.
I can hear you coming through my computer back here.
But I can't hear. Wait. Is it muted?
All right.
Maybe. Okay, try again, Luke.
Hello. Hello.
Nope, still
Is
can't
it-
get it.
Can anybody
Okay.
hear me, or is it just you?
No, we know that's loud. Okay. Mhm.
I hear
Okay,
you.
try again. No, still can't. There's only so many settings I can pick.
Let's see what you
Okay.
got in the chat.
I wonder if I'm gonna do a little something drastic. And maybe if I delete
hear.
the owl. But it's here. No one here can hear.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I got a room full of people and no one here can hear. All right. Luke, try again for me.
All righty. Hello.
Nope, still can't hear you.
All right. It's a new
Hold
venue
on.
for you, though, so it's
Hold
all right.
on. No, this happened at Prosser. Remember when we had the video? This happened. This is not the first time. Let's try. All right, try again, Luke.
Hello. Hello.
No.
Testing.
Dang it. He's good because everybody on Zoom. We can't hear him through this.
Where's your volume switch?
My volume is up. My audio is here, but it's not coming through though on anything. I undid the owl, so I set it up just like everything else.
So then, are they speaking?
Luke, say something else. We're gonna get to hear your voice.
All right. Yes. Excellent.
Okay, but we can only hear it here, which means Let's see, we might have to get a little funky here.
Get you another microphone.
All right. Try.
Speak again.
Hello, hello there.
Okay,
Hello.
yes, we're getting there.
All righty. Good to hear.
That works. Okay. All right. So can everybody in Zoom see Luke's screen? Like do a thumbs up.
Yes.
Marina can see it. Okay. Can everybody else give me a thumbs up so you can see Luke? We good? Okay. Now I'm going to switch you all here to the full side. Okay. I think we're good now, everybody. That only took me a little bit. Yeah. Go ahead, Luke. Try again.
All right, so you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Yes. All right, that's wonderful. Well, great. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be joining you all this evening from various locations. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about native grasses. Of course, I'm here in Kentucky. Some of you all are in Indiana. We share a lot of things between the two states, so there's a lot of similarities. And I've kind of condensed what I would normally talk to everything that would apply to both states. And of course, Kentucky is the bluegrass state, but interestingly enough, Kentucky bluegrass is primarily native to Europe. There's some contention between the scientific community about exactly when and how it got into North America, but now it is one of many that is widely found across the country. And I think it's important to, before we talk about individual grasses and how we can go about planting them and why we should do that, to just talk a little bit about where they come from and what their role is, starting with grasslands, which is the habitat that they're primarily found in abundance. And a grassland is simply just an ecosystem that's dominated by graminoids, which a lot of you probably know that is just an herbaceous plant, a non-woody plant. So you have three different kinds: true grasses, sedges, and rushes, which we can talk a little bit more about later. And depending on how grasslands are measured, they account for about 20 to 40% of the Earth's land. And they're often considered intermediary ecosystems. And I like to think of them not so much as they're trying to get somewhere else, so to speak, but they're ecosystems in their own right. And even though from a ecosystem succession standpoint, they're right in between deserts and forests, right? You know, if you consider deserts having almost no plant life and forests having the most plant life, grasslands are right there in the middle. And Indiana has a lot of really wonderful grasslands, both historically and also still today. The photo there on the bottom left is actually at the Indiana Dunes. If any of you have been up there, it's really awesome. They have a lot of different types of grasslands up there. And I think a lot of people, when they think of grasslands in the United States, they think of the Great Plains, the tall grass prairie, and the short grass prairie. But there's also a lot of other types of grasslands, specific types that were historically a lot more common in our region of the Southeast and the Midwest. And we can talk a little bit about why that is. And these are just two side-by-side images of the eastern United States and the grasslands of this region. And the difference is a span of just about 30 years, which, evolutionary speaking, is not very long at all. And you can see this really dense green color in the central part of the country, which is where those Great Plains are. A lot of those places are still intact today, but some of them are not. But I think the biggest differences can be found right in our region, the Louisville area, the rest of the Southeast and the Midwest. A lot of it just in the last, half a century, a lot of these grasslands have disappeared, converted mostly into farmland or development. Um, and that's a big deal for a lot of reasons. But also because oh, I don't know what happened there. So we have a lot of because we have a lot of different grassland types. So when you lose a lot of grasslands, some of these specific types of grasslands only accounted for, a very small percentage of the total grassland. So if you lose a lot, it can drastically change what you're experiencing out there. And not all of these types of grasslands occur in our area, but a lot of them do. And I think the most common ones that you'll find uh, in our areas are prairies, savannas, barrens, and glades, which I'll talk a little bit more about in depth here in just a second. But then there's also a lot of different kinds of things that you might not really have thought about as being grasslands, where grasses play an important part of the ecosystem. Things like river scour, which is just a sort of fancy term that describes the rocky sections of rivers and creeks that are kind of like along the riverbanks, where they functionally act as grasslands because they're not getting shaded out by trees. They are being exposed, and there's very shallow soils like you'd find in other grasslands. Balds, which if you've been to the Appalachian Mountains, up to the very tippy tops of some of those mountains, there's just exposed grassland up there. Very unique environment. And then there's also sort of some crossovers between wetlands and grasslands too, like bogs and fens and marshes, which are all wetlands in their own right, but they're also considered grasslands too, because, going back to just thinking about grasslands as an ecosystem that's dominated by those grasses, sedges, and rushes. Um, those are places that have them too. So specifically the ones around here in our region, um, we have prairie, which is, I think, one of the most common ones that people think about first when they think of grasslands. And they are a nearly treeless landscape. There can be a few trees, but they're dominated by grasses and wildflowers and some shrubs. And prairies used to cover so much of this country, including Indiana and parts of Kentucky. Is an estimated 7 to 10 million acres across the southeast U.S. that were here before Europeans colonized the country. And now it's down to like less than 1% of that. And there's a few really great places that you can go to experience what these places would have been like, not just in the Southeast, but in the Midwest too, like up near the Illinois-Indiana border. This picture is from the Kankakee Sands Preserve up in that area. They've been doing a lot of work to restore the prairies up in that region south of Chicago. And you can actually see bison there now again, which is really cool, because you have to provide habitat for the animals to be able to live there too. And I think that's a lot of, or at least one of the reasons why people get so excited about planting natives in their own property, is because it can attract certain species of wildlife that they really want to help out and see for themselves. Um, the the next type I want to talk about is savanna, and these probably were the most common ecosystem that were found in southern Indiana, in northern Kentucky, prior to colonization of this region. And a loose definition of what a savanna would be is a grassland that's has scattered trees that cover less than 30% of an area. And that's just in opposition to what a true woodland would be a similar area with grassland and forest that is between 30 to 50% of trees that cover the area. So kind of a nitpicky difference there that doesn't necessarily need to be specified all the time. But like I said, historically, these were the most common and widespread of all grassland types and occupied more than 120 million acres in the southeast US. So that's a lot of this habitat that has been lost. And again, this is a photo from the Indiana Dunes. They have some really cool oak savannas up there that blend right into the coastal dune grasslands. So some really cool mosaics that you can get and that were reminiscent of things that in the past. Glades is one that can be a little bit more confusing for some people. I know they were for me when I started learning about grasslands. And because the first thing that I think of when I think of glades is the Everglades in Florida, which makes me think of a lot of water. But when in fact, the term glade just means an area, an open area in an otherwise forested environment. And when we're talking about grasslands and glades, they're areas of sparsely vegetated rocky grasslands that are over relatively shallow bedrock of any types. Around here, it's usually limestone. And they're characteristically wet in winter and spring and then become very dry in the summer. And that's what creates these unique conditions for a lot of rare and endemic species to thrive. And we have a really great example of one here in Louisville, the Louisville area. Some of you might have been out to see the Kentucky glade cress, which is this plant down here in the bottom left corner, which is the only place you can find it is here in the limestone glades of the Kentuckiana region. This is an example of a glade that you can find here in Kentucky, and it does extend up into Indiana too. And a very similar type of grassland to a glade would be a barren. These glades and barrens are often interchanged in terms of what they're called. You might have a glade that's called a barren and a barren called a glade. The main difference really is that a barren is typically sloped while a glade is on a flat bedrock. A barren has less exposed bedrock and typically just is very sloped with a lot of different rocky soils. This picture is of the Pine Creek Barrens State Nature Preserve in Bullock County, Kentucky, just south of us. And it shows you both barrens and glades, actually. They might be kind of hard to tell from this angle, but the glades are very small pockets within the barrens. So most of these grasslands here are barrens, but then you have small exposed bedrock areas, which endemic plants like the glade cress thrive in because there's no other competition. So this is a very particular type of grassland that just so happens to be common in our area from southern Indiana down through Kentucky and into Tennessee. So those are some common grasslands of our region. And but when we're talking about actually planting grasses and why we should be doing that, there's a conversation of native grasses versus non-native lawns. And not only have non-native lawns absolutely just taken over our environment in our cities, but also outside the cities. They've also they just replaced these ecosystems that we just talked about, all those different types of grasslands. And there's a ton of reasons why it's beneficial to use native grasses over non-native grasses. I'm sure a lot of you are reaping the benefits of doing that if you have your own native gardens. Um, when you think about non-native lawns, you think about the time, the energy, the money it takes to maintain those versus a native garden with native flowers and grasses and forbs. Yes, there is still time and energy and money to put into that, but it's usually up front, and over time, it's a lot less than what would be a non-native turf lawn type of situation. Um, just going through these various uh, aspects of a mowed lawn. I think I um, read recently that there was about 800 million gallons of gasoline spent each year in the U.S. just mowing lawns. That includes, residential lawns, but also commercial lawns and all that stuff, golf courses, and that's a lot of gas, a lot of money, a lot of resources to create something that doesn't really help erosion. It doesn't help the plants there. It exposes them to extreme drought, which leads to people experiencing water shortages. Um, it's not good for wildlife either. There's not a very large diversity of plants that support diverse um animals such as pollinators and small mammals and all sorts of things. And then there's the aesthetic side of it, right? I'm sure a lot of you as gardeners can appreciate the fact that sometimes it's just nice to look at an area and not think of all of the scientific reasons or the moral reasons why we should or shouldn't do something. It just looks cool, it looks nice, and it's a great thing to have in our community, in our properties. Um, and native grasses can certainly contribute that to that. They might not have the showiness of wildflowers, but a lot of them are really, really beautiful. Um, and I also just want to mention the fact that when it comes to erosion control, native grasses are exponentially better than non-native grasses. If you just look at this image that shows the depth of the root system, it's not just about the depth, but also the width of the root system. So how far these root systems are reaching, and they're also intermingling with each other in that of any trees that are nearby. So it's really helping stabilize that ground by quite a lot. So when talking about grasses, any grasses, you have two different types of grasses that can be categorized into warm season versus cool season, um, which is referring to the times of the year that they are going to experience the most growth. And warm season grasses are typically going to be slower to germinate and reach maturity and self-sustaining populations. They're going to need a little bit more attention over those early years in order to not be outcompeted because of that slower growth. Competition is often a problem, especially because a lot of the invasive grasses, like Kentucky bluegrass, they are cool season grasses. So if you look at this graph in the middle, it shows you that the cool season grasses will be experiencing the most growth in the early spring and the late fall. And of course, the warm season grasses are the opposite of that. So if you're starting to grow earlier in the year, you get a head start and you can outcompete the warm season grasses. Whoops. Uh, and so the cool season grasses, uh, I know I mentioned just a minute ago that native grasses do not require as much time, energy, or money to maintain as non-native lawns do, and that's very true. That doesn't mean they require no maintenance, though. And so cool season grasses typically require a little bit more maintenance than warm season grasses in the long term, right? So the warm season grasses take a while to mature into great big stands, but once they reach that after a couple years, they're usually pretty long lasting and will last for decades, really, if not longer. The cool season grasses need to be maintained a little bit more intimately. They can be mowed. The warm season grasses actually prefer to be controlled using fire, most of them. They have adapted to living in a fire regime ecosystem. But for the purposes of native gardens, oftentimes that's not feasible. So you can mow them too as well, and they'll respond to that usually pretty well equivalently. Um, and just another thing to keep in mind is that cool season grasses tend to be shorter, just in stature, than warm season grasses. Not always, but they usually are, and that can be something to really consider if you're going to be planting them anywhere, right? Going back to those aesthetics values. So getting into the actual nitty-gritty of establishing native grasses, if you are planting them, whether it be in your backyard garden or over a large farmland, there's a certain process that should, I think, be taken regardless of the situation. There are certain things that everyone, no matter the situation, can look out for. And I think the first thing to be considerate of is what kind of competition is there for that is already present on property or on the land, right? Usually you're not going to be starting out with a completely barren soil that's been tilled and there's no plants in it whatsoever. You're going to have already established plants there. So understanding what they are, what their growing requirements are, can help you start out with even just selecting what kind of grasses you're going to put in the ground, right? And after that, you can sort of assess the actual components of the land, right? Soil type, light availability, nutrient availability, and what sort of things you're hoping to accomplish with planting these grasses. Are you going to stop at grasses? Are you going to add flowers? Are you going to add trees? There's a lot to take into consideration. And then getting into actually seeding it, not all grasses are planted the same depth or at the same spacing apart from each other. Just like forbs or trees, they are all kind of individualistic. And in some cases, you might actually have better success with dividing them manually, right? Instead of planting seeds, you can get some actual grasses that have already been germinated and are already ready to go, and you can separate them because a lot of grasses will reproduce that way anyway. And then, like I said before, all grasses require some attention, some maintenance in the early years. So just being aware of what the specific needs are for your grass. If it's a cool season grass, you'll probably need to be a little bit more attentive over a longer time period. And we're going to look at a couple of specific species here in just a second. That can give you some more examples of what they might need. When talking about individual species, it can be helpful just to know a little bit about the anatomy of grasses. Some of you might have heard the little mnemonic phrase that helps you remember the difference between sedges, rushes, and grasses. Sedges typically have a very sharp edge on them. They're triangular in shape. Rushes are round, and grasses are hollow with nodes close to their bases that are usually pretty obvious if you're running your finger along the stem. And there are a lot more grasses than there are sedges and rushes, so I won't be talking too much about sedges or rushes. but they are very cool in their own right, and I encourage you to check them out if you're interested in having some diversity. Uh, there are one really important thing to note is that a lot of grasses will reproduce via what's called rhizomes, which are underground stems uh, that run right along the surface or right under the surface of the ground and can produce shoots uh, uh, from the same root system. So it's genetically this exact same plant. Um, and some plants have stolons, which are essentially just above ground versions of rhizomes. So if you ever see like what looks like a root, or not a root, a stem running along the ground, that would be a stolon. And if you dig it up out of the ground, that would be a rhizome. And that's how you get these really just large, vast expanses of grasses, right? Is they're essentially just not waiting for seeds to just find their way into the ground at the right moment and miraculously make it to adulthood. In a lot of cases, they're sending out these uh, uh, reproductive structures along the ground. So just a couple of common species of our region, Kentuckiana. Uh, I couldn't possibly cover all of them in the time we have, as much fun as that would be. I've just stuck to a couple of my favorites, warm season and cool season. And the first one is little blue stem, which is a very wide-ranging plant. It's probably the most, if not one of the most widely distributed grasses in the country. And as such, it can host a lot of different insects, but also provide food and cover for a lot of different animals, right? Because it's found in so many different types of places. It's really aesthetically pleasing, I think, because it has that really bluish greenish color to it. And after the first frost in the fall or winter, it turns to like a bronzy color. Not necessarily brown like other grasses you might think of, but bronze. It has this really nice shimmer. You can see that one of these images on the right has those white tufts after it's gone to seed, which can be blown in the wind, which is also really pretty. But one thing that I think is interesting is that in many regions, this plant cannot thrive without fire. You might be able to plant it and maintain it in your yard and it do okay. But in the wild, it really thrives in these areas that historically have had wildfires going through and helping to clean through the brush, get rid of competition, open up those seed heads, um, and give it a nice good start again. The next one is river oats, which are very distinctive. I mean, they're called river oats, or some people call them sea oats because they resemble an oat. Their seed resemble oats, even though they're not closely related to true oats. But this is a plant that you can find a lot of in river valleys and floodplains, places that have very moist soils, sandy soils and clay soils. So that can be really cool. This can be a cool plant to have if your yard is full of clay, which I know a lot of like newer developments have really tough, compact clay soil. But it's very distinctive, and the seed heads will actually remain on the plant through winter sometimes, at least through the first part of winter. And a lot of birds and small mammals will eat them too. One thing to note about this plant is that you can see in the bottom right um, the measurement of its root system. Even from a very young age, this plant has very long roots in relation to its leaves and stems. Um, so that can really help to stabilize the soil around it if you're looking to prevent erosion over the short term. Um, and especially, this makes sense, especially because you can find it in river valleys and near bodies of water where erosion often occurs. The next grass I want to talk about is switchgrass. Again, a very common grass throughout a lot of the country, but that just makes it easier to deal with because it's not specific. And it's also really beautiful in the late summer, early autumn when it has these seed heads, which they're pretty small, so you might not be able to see them in this photo, but they're a very purpley color. And if you have a whole stand of switchgrass blown in the wind, it gives off this really cool purpley um, look to it. But it's a very characteristic plant of the tallgrass prairie in the Midwest, and you'll find it in a lot of places. Um, it holds well in winter too. If you can see this image on the right in the winter of it covered in frost, because it has very stiff stems and leaves that will hold up snow and frost and stuff like that. So it gives you a really cool look like that in the winter. Um, and because it keeps standing throughout the whole year, doesn't wilt or die off or anything, um, it also provides cover for a lot of wildlife, rodents and reptiles and all sorts of things. Uh, Next up is one of my favorite grasses, bottlebrush grass. Uh, Pretty easy to remember. It's pretty distinctive. And it has these opposite seed heads on sort of inflorescence where the seeds grow. Um, and the seeds themselves are very long um, for a grass anyway. And most of the growth of bottlebrush grass occurs early on in the season. And this is a cool season growing grass. So early spring and a little bit in fall as well. But this is great if you want to have something that's just come into life pretty early on in the year. And in the wild, a lot of animals will utilize these grasses when no other grasses have yet exhibited any new growth. It's also pretty tolerant of shade and drought for grasses. Um, Most grasses prefer at least partial sun, just in order to really thrive. Um, but this being a cool season grass, it can tolerate a little bit more shade since it doesn't grow in those super hot uh, times of year. And another interesting thing that I like to tell people is that this plant prefers calcium-rich soil, which in and of itself is not strange, considering that we live in a limestone dominant area where calcium is very abundant. But what is cool about it is that concrete has a lot of calcium and it can leach off into the surrounding areas wherever there's concrete. So if you have like a hell strip, which is that strip of land right adjacent to the road and the sidewalk, that's just getting beat up. And you might find the bottlebrush grass can do well there, especially if it's a shady area too. This might be an option. Um, but I just think it's very interesting to sort of think about the preferences and characteristics of these plants um, and how they can be incorporated into our urban environments. Uh, such as by acknowledging their nutrient preferences. And the next grass is American beet grass. And this grass is very interesting. It's another cool season grass. I would say that there's probably, I don't know if I want to put a number on it, but there are more warm season grasses than there are cool season grasses in our region, at least. But this is a cool season one, and you can find this a lot in the knobs areas of both Kentucky and southern Indiana. If you're walking along the ridges, this picture here on the right, in the middle, is from Jefferson Memorial Forest, just south of Louisville. Walking along the ridge tops there, beetgrass really likes it up there. And that's because this is probably the most shade tolerant of all of our native grasses in this region. It can grow almost in full shade, not quite full shade, but almost. And it, even with a lot of shade, it still spreads rapidly in these large stands using using rhizomes underground. They do reproduce by seed too, of course, and the seeds are really easy to collect. They pretty much just fall off if you touch them. But what else was I going to say? Oh, the in the winter they have this really golden hue to them that really stands out up there on ridge tops, hilltops, which is where they seemed to prefer in our area. They prefer those areas. They really stand out in the winter among the leaf litter. I think it's really pretty. But they kind of remind me of a nice natural alternative to a live ropey, if you've used live ropey in a garden, because they have that kind of similar appearance, and they kind of clump together in similar ways. There are hundreds of native grass species in our region of Indiana and Kentucky. So, we could talk about all of them, but I think it's just important to think about which ones you like, just go out and look at them either in person or online or through acquaintances or however. I just threw these two in here because I really like both of these. River cane is a type of bamboo. It's a native bamboo here. Some of you probably have seen it around. It doesn't always get this tall, doesn't always get super big or thick or anything, but it can, and it's really cool just to have a bamboo and say, yeah, this is native to our region. And historically, these would form huge thickets along floodplains and rivers, creek banks that were called cane brakes. And they were just very thick. And the river cane was used for a lot of different things for indigenous peoples, and even today still. Oops. And then the pink muhly grass, which is a really beautiful grass. It has these pink inflorescence in the summer, and even in the winter too. It holds on to the hue, and it's become more popular in recent years in the horticulture industry, even though it's not that common of a grass in our area. Even in the Great Plains and the prairies of the Midwest and up there, it's still not that prolific, but it is a really beautiful grass, and I think that's worth considering too. Like I said before about aesthetics, if it can get people to care about the plant, then that's great. So yeah, thank you. That's all I have for you right now. So if we have any
I
questions,
think there's questions here, so let me pull them up and then
yeah, absolutely.
let me get situated here. Okay, sorry, I gotta work through all the, yes, we can hear it sound now. Okay.
Great.
Can you provide a good, reliable source for wildflower mixes, and what are those mixes usually comprised of?
Well, I get all of my seeds from either Drop Seed Nursery in Prospect or Roundstone Nursery, which is in central Kentucky. Um, and I wouldn't say that I usually get one particular kind over another. It just sort of depends on what the project is, right? Um, but I think one thing I will say is when looking for wildflower seed mixes, um, I would still reach out to whoever's selling them and ask them how they were grown, um, like the plants that they come from, how they were grown, because uh, if you think about uh, planting seeds of any plant, not just wildflowers, um, if you're a seed coming off a parent plant, you're probably genetically just going to have the right genes to grow in the conditions of whatever your parent was growing in. Um, so it can be helpful just to talk to them about that.
All right, anybody out here in front of me? What's up, Mary? What's your question?
How long does the pink muley grass get?
How tall is the pink muley grass get?
Oh, good question. I think I want to say it's between 2 to 4 feet. Um,
2 to 4 feet.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Veronica, what's up? How tall is the river cane?
River cane, I mean, that can get really tall. I'm not sure what the maximum height is, but I know personally I've seen it get up to um, 14 or 15 feet tall.
14, 15. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Other question. Okay. I understand these grasses are native, but are any of them aggressive spreaders, and which ones?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah, some of them will reproduce more rapidly than others, and typically those are going to be ones that uh, have really, excuse me, that utilize those rhizomes a lot more. So I think it's a good idea to look into how the grasses are reproducing in their natural environments, and if they're reproducing via rhizomes under the ground, then they're going to be spreading a lot faster than grasses that are primarily using seeds that drop to the ground through the wind and then germinate that way. Um, so, but yeah, any of the ones like Little Blue Stem was the first one that I had mentioned earlier. That one grows really quickly. Switchgrass grows really quickly. I mean, these are ones that are very characteristic of prairies and primarily because they reproduce so quickly. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. You just have to be aware of it, and you'll probably see some ones sprouting out all over the place if you just leave it unattended. So yeah.
All right. Any questions out? Yeah, Jean, what's up? How does the muley grass spread by rhizomes?
They have rhizomes like most of these grasses do, but I want to say I don't think it's primarily by that. I think that one's less likely to do that, which is probably one of the reasons why it's declined in a lot of areas. It's not as prolific of a spreader.
Okay. Any final questions? What?
Hello.
Oh,
I have my
hi,
hand up.
Myra.
Hi, Myra.
Yeah, hey
Yeah.
Luke, thanks. Great presentation. So I have this lateral sewer pipe replaced in my backyard, and so I got this berm now in the backyard. And as you were talking, I was thinking, ooh, I kind of like that bottlenose grass and some wildflowers. And so, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that sounds like a good place to maybe trial it out. There are other grasses that you could look into too. I would say, um,
Yeah, I'm
you
here
know,
in town, New Albany.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, if it's a shady area, is it a shady area?
No, it's full sun.
Full sun. Okay, well then that's great because you have more options then. Um, but yeah, I mean, you probably want to probably want something that's going to uh, mix well with whatever the flowers are, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, that one bottle brush grass is great, and it holds its um, colors through winter. I have some in my backyard right now.
Oh, very nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, Luke, that's it. We appreciate you hanging out with us and Zooming with us and everything else. Sorry for the technical difficulties. One of these days I'll make Zoom work the right way the first time.
Yeah, no worry. Hey, it happens. That's okay. And thanks for just inviting me. Um, I hope I get to chat with you all again at some point.
Yes, so thank you. All right.
All right, let me see if I can stop sharing. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, and you're either welcome to stay on. We're just gonna do a little bit of business, or you can hop on off. Your call. Your call.
All righty.
We won't kick you out, but
No, I understand. But yeah, I'll let y'all get down to business. It was nice meeting y'all.
yes. See you soon.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so what we'll do right now is everybody will take a quick break. So if you want to use the restroom.
I still have audio with Zoom land, so let's go
Okay.
before it dies.
The first. She said the volume's on.
Just talking to this. Get close.
I know, see?
Sorry, I told you to stay. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to get like super close to it. I apologize. Okay, just get my bubble. It's cool. You can be my bubble. I don't mind. Okay, there you go.
Okay, how's this? Okay, the first thing I want to say is Bonnie was nice enough to walk up to me to remind us all that at the extension office in the back, there is a demonstration garden that has all of the grasses that this gentleman, Luke, talked about. So if you want to, she was saying it doesn't look real nice right now because it is winter. But if you want to look at any of those grasses and see what they look like in the winter, go ahead and take a look, and then you can go every season, and then that'll help you decide what you want to put in your garden. That's my introduction for today. How's that? So hopefully I did it justice. So I guess we just need to call to order the meeting. Again, you help me with this nonsense over here.
Since we only have one mic, Veronica, did anyone have corrections to your minutes?
Does anybody have any comments or suggestions in regards to the minutes or corrections?
Temporary Sunnyside.
Bonnie's raising her hand.
Oh, so the minutes lied and we had to change the location.
Yes, we did not know at the time. It's been, yes, we've been having to be very flexible. And Gina's been doing a really nice job of strong arming them. So, okay, so we can say that we're gonna approve the minutes other than that correction.
Everybody good?
Everybody good?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the meeting. I make a motion.
Art, there was a motion, Art seconded. We're just gonna say there was a motion.
Ooh, approve.
Approve.
Yeah, Marino got these approved, so we're good. Anybody have any objections right now? I'm trying to get us all out of here.
Yes,
Okay.
right. Okay, thank you. Next is treasurer report.
Okay, hold on. Mike, don't say anything yet, but you're gonna have to switch with Mike. What do you want up first? What? Do you want February? Got it. Hold on. I gotta share for the Zoom land folk.
You on?
I'm on. We're good.
Okay. This is your February report. Beginning cash was 24,285. Want to bring your attention now that after the year started and I got into the books and everything, there was a discrepancy of right at $400 in beginning cash balance. And got looking and it was just a few transactions last year that weren't posted. Everything was in order. The audit committee didn't pick it up because it was outside the scope of their audit. I did some checking on how they did it. The executive committee this year will come up with an audit program that's a little bit more, it'll be structured, so this shouldn't happen in the future, but everything else was in good shape. So we received $7,100 from Duke Energy or Duke.
It's fine, Luke.
That's for Pollinator Day. That's grant money. And I'll go and explain real quickly on Pollinator Day. Pollinator Day has really evolved to kind of a joint program with Purdue and New Albany and SMG. We tend to run the grants through SMG because there are certain criteria that if Gina ran the grant money through her side, that Purdue and Lafayette could take a pound of flesh out of it. So they can't get our money, so we're putting it on our side. So that's why we're doing that. Sold a cookbook, and then we received a donation for the Youth Master Gardener Program. Didn't have any disbursements, so ending cash was right at 31,500. I tend to round numbers off when I give them out, but not otherwise. Okay.
Wait, I gotta grab the other one. Give me a second. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go through the budget real quick. We're starting off with $24,300. Our receipts anticipated are $3,700 in dues, $300 newsletter, $500 in the Kroger Reward Program, $12,000 in grant money from Pollinator Day. That also includes
Which one am I? Oh.
damn, oh, other way.
Oh, sorry. Yelling at me. That's what I have. Ah, golly, just fire me now, okay? Gee,
Yeah.
geez, that's like what I'm talking about.
So now what it's talking about might make a little sense. Yeah. Okay, Pollinator Day is 12,000. Principally is grant money. We also do receive, if somebody gives us money and says it's for Pollinator Day, we'll put it there. Youth Master Gardener, budget, no wonder. That's the, registration fees that we collect on that program. Scroll a little bit.
So picky.
Yeah, okay. Fundraisers. We got the two major fundraisers, the Tomato Festival and the wreath making class. Combined, that's about $5,700. So they're pretty major fundraisers for us. The holiday dinner, we show that at $1,600 coming in. That'll also show $1,600 going out. So that's going to be a wash. So total receipts are $24,800. Now you can scroll a little bit more, a little bit. Stop. Okay. Okay. Our projects, I just aggregated them there. The board reviewed them in detail, so they got the detail. I'm not boring you with that. So that's $19,800. So that's the Youth Master Gardener Program, Butterfly Garden, Park 4-H, Floyd County 4-H, Seed Saver, Century Garden, Falls of the Ohio, Farmers Markets, the Bluebird Team, Georgetown Optimist, and I know I'm missing a couple, but you know what the programs are. The committees, we got the bereavement committee, the program committee, and they're doing a great job this year. Refreshment committee, and then these, okay, you scroll down some more, a little bit. You need a map. Stop. Okay. Association expenses, those are kind of our general administrative expenses. We will send this budget out, in a later, probably with the next newsletter. So you'll be able to look at all this stuff, in detail. So, okay. After going through the administrative expenses, you got the fundraising expenses, the Tomato Festival, and the wreath making class are about $1,000 expenses in that. And then the holiday dinner is going to be the wash, $1,600. Total disbursement is 26.7. It shows a deficit of $1,800, which number one, we got the funds for, and number two, it's not going to happen because typically the programs ask for bigger budgets than what they actually will end up needing. And also we tend to get money from various places that I didn't want to budget because it might come and might not, but it generally does. So we should, I think, come pretty close to break even for the year. So if there's any questions on the February report or the budget, I'll take them. And if you got questions later, you just get a hold of me and I'll field it individually with you. If there's no questions, I will turn the balance of my time over to Shelley.
Yeah, you can always email them with any questions. Okay, next is Veronica. Do you want to let us know about the documentation retention and destruction policy, please?
Okay, hold on. Let's get everybody up here on deck.
Yeah.
Diane, work your way this way. Connie Hoseapple, Dave Graff, Debbie, Brad Fjord, just work your way this way. Jeff Coverbutte on this way. You're gonna have to sit, you're gonna be real loud. Just take that out of the way.
All right, the last couple months, Kathy Strecker and I, and then the rest of the several others on the board, put together a document retention and destruction policy. Basically how to take care of all the electronic and paper documents that we have. The majority of them fall under the treasurer's position. There's some under the secretary and some are just determination of, which ones need to be permanent and what time frame. A lot of them are just in the 3-year time frame. Some are 7. There are some items that are associated with the Youth Master Garden program that are much longer just because of some state statutes as far as keeping documentation when youth are involved. But this was presented to the executive board this last month, and they approved the policy. So it's will be published and will be available on the website. If you have any questions, you can look at it and then just send them to the executive board. Okay.
Yep, that works. Don't die on that.
Next, Tomato Festival.
Hello. How's everybody this evening? Okay, I'll hurry up. Okay, so, Tomato Festival, I know it's 5 months away. It's August 17th. We're decided to always have it on the 3rd Sunday of August. Seems to be a relatively good time for tomatoes. And the reason I bring it up early is because, of course, we have to grow tomatoes. We have got 12 different varieties of tomatoes that we're going to be growing for the taste testing booth. We are, this month, of course, we're going to be starting the tomatoes. So if you're interested in helping to start those tomatoes, let me know. There's a sign-up sheet back there. If you have extra space in your garden, just like last year, if you'd like to grow some of those taste testing tomatoes, let me know. Again, there's a sign-up sheet back there. We also need lots of volunteers for the Tomato Festival. We had 300 people show up last year to enjoy the Tomato Festival, and we probably get a few more this year. So the more people, the better. It was a fun day, 3 hours of festival and a couple hours set up it's amazing how fast cleanup goes. Anyway, so there's signups back there, so please join us and let me know if you have any questions. And Gina has.
If you're growing stuff for Tomato Festival or Pollinator Day, we have the trays and I have all the pots. Or come to Spring Fest or the Spring Open House and bring your friends and have them purchase this stuff so we can leave. Okay.
Let me know if you have any questions about Tomato Festival. It's more information in the newsletter. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. No, you, Connie, she was confused. She didn't know you existed. Okay.
Next week, Karen Alexander and Pam Schneider and I are going to be updating the SMG project display board that we have at Pollinator Day. So if any of the team project leaders have any photos that they submitted at the Christmas party to Sarah, then contact her if you want to replace any. I know we need to have some for Sam Peden and for Jeffersonville Farmers Market. Get with them ASAP and they'll print them for us and then we'll add them to the board. The board is getting crowded, so hopefully maybe next year we'll get a bigger board and have more projects to put on it. Also, if you're growing plants for the SMG booth, we're going to have them offer for a donation. Don't drop them off prior to, like, during the week or at the extension center because there's no room for that. You can bring them the morning of Pollinator Day. We don't have to put prices on them because it's going to be a donation. Or you can drop them off the Friday before Pollinator Day on April the 25th, where they're going to be staging everything in the shine room. And when you drop them off, please try to put on your plants as much care information as you can. That'll be helpful for the donations. Also, we're going to be selling some garden related items. It could be a craft item. It could be a used, but not abused type thing, brand new. You can also drop those off probably not the day before on Friday the 25th in the shine room or the morning of Pollinator Day, so we can go ahead and get prices on those. I guess it.
Okay.
Or you could, if you have any items, bring them at the April 1st SMG meeting too. That would be another good thing. So Karen, you have anything to add? Okay.
All right, there you go. All right. Hey. Hot seat. You don't get to be at the podium. You got to be here. You got to sit next to me. I'm sorry.
You're anybody.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you have to sit next to me. Okay, now you can speak, and then everybody in Zoom land and here can hear you.
I'm going to tell you about Sacred Heart first. Sacred Heart is behind Sacred Heart Catholic Church on 8th Street at the corner of 8th and Martha. The garden is on Martha, behind the church, behind the school, in front of the gym, and has a split rail fence around it. We have an herb bed, cactus and succulent area, a rose garden, a mound in the shade, and we work every Thursday from about the end of March, maybe the beginning of April, depending on the weather. We work every Thursday from about 8 to noon. And we also cut the grass, plant some annuals, and mulch and weed when needed. The farmers market begins in June. Jeffersonville is the first Saturday of June, July, August, and September. And the New Albany market is the second Saturday of those months. And we do the same thing at each market. We have about 6 volunteers at each market. I coordinate the volunteers at Jeffersonville, and Mary Klein gets the volunteers at the New Albany market. In June, we're going to be giving, June is Hummingbird Day, and we'll be giving away button bushes that attract the hummingbirds. And the kids will be planning, we always have something for the kids to do to get the parents over. And the kids will be planting seeds and ice cream cones. In July is butterflies. We'll be giving annuals away that attract the butterflies. And the kids are going to make butterflies out of coffee filters. In August is Bee Day. And we'll be giving perennials away that attract bees. And the kids will make bees out of construction paper and that they can make and take home. In September is all pollinators, and we will be giving spring bulbs away. At the Sacred Heart Garden, the kids in the school use the garden for study or science projects. And the farmers markets, we usually have between 400 and 500 contacts each month at the farmers market. So we talk to a lot of people, and we will be sending out an email to different workers that have worked in the past to sign up, and we'll have a schedule for the whole year. And we will send that schedule out to those volunteers when we get the information back.
All right, questions for Dave? Dave, wait, you got a question. Wait, there's 2 questions, Dave. Hold on. Jane, what's up?
The times that were there.
What times are you at the farmer's market? What time are you at the farmer's market?
The Jeff market is from 9 to noon. We set up at 8:30. And the New Albany market, we set up at 7:30. And it goes till noon.
So the New Albany market starts about an hour earlier.
Yes.
Yes, got it. Okay. Wait, Mary's got a question.
Working the farmers market. Please come and see me your day. We would love to have volunteers, and it's a lot of fun.
Right.
We get like 5 hours of volunteer time just in one day.
So for those of you on Zoom land, if you want to work farmers market, please email Dave or Mary Klein. Someone asked if there was a place to see all the activities. Email Dave if you want to know what they're going to do at the farmers market and which month. Okay. Debbie's up. Sorry, I'm trying to run you all a little faster here. Trying to get us in and out.
Hi, I'm
You're
just,
gonna be close. You're gonna be close. You're soft spoken.
I'm here about our shout out program for Pollinator Day. So for some of you that are new, just routinely through all the past years, we have received gracious donations from our members. Just a little bit here and there really adds up to help us with the expenses for all the different things we need to make and get ready and to keep this a family-friendly event. So I thank everyone that donated at the Christmas party, and along with what we collect tonight, The way this will go on the signs at Pollinator Day is we will group all of that money together, and it will be listed on the signs as a donation from the SMG group. So if you are on Zoom land and you also would like to do a shout out, you can drop the money off at the office if that's convenient. Or if you need to know how to write a check and send it to the office, just let me know and I'll take care of that. The other thing that you can do if you want to make a personal donation in your name that you would want to be listed on the signage, that is possible. The supporter levels start at $40 and go up. Since we're kind of short on time, I'm just going to tell you our cute names for them. That would be the beetle level, the hummingbird level, the butterfly level, and the native bee level. And just according to whatever donation you would make, you would be listed on the signs as a personal donor for that. I have the forms tonight. If you know of someone that has a business that you would like to get one of these to, we are getting a little short on time. We need this money turned into us by March the 15th so that we can get all this information put on sites.
Spring open house next.
Right. So spring open house, that is going to be March the 13th from 4 to 7. We will have our seeds there that night. We have quite a good stash of seeds. So I think you'll find maybe whatever you would need. We will have seeds for the cruciferous vegetables that Gina's asking us to grow for the cookbook. We will have some house plants that different ones are bringing in that need to be divided and propagated that you can have a start off of. There are going to be some flower starts that night. We're going to have educational videos pertaining to seed starting that will just sort of be going through the evening. With those, we will be able to answer seed starting questions or other questions that you might have. We will have quite a few supplies. You want to kind of show them one, like what we might have in the way. We've got a lot of supplies that have been donated to the group that we will have at the spring open house that night on a donation basis. If you are growing them specifically to be resold at Pollinator Day or Tomato Festival, your supplies will be given to you. So even if you just need some for yourself, it's going to be a way for you to be able to, just for a small donation, save a lot of money over buying these supplies in the garden center.
So those of you on Zoom land can't see, but we have all kinds of peat pellet pots and stuff. So yeah, and plasticware. Yeah.
We even have a few heat mats and what have you. So we would love to have you, your neighbors, your friends, your family come to the spring open house, March the 13th. It's a Thursday night, 4 to 7. Just asking you to stop in. We're not asking anybody to be there with us for 3 hours, but just stop in and say hello and get you some seeds and some supplies.
No. Purdue.
Purdue.
Me.
Yes.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Wrong P word. Purdue.
So if it's raining, we'll be downstairs in the lobby. If it's nice, we will be out on the back porch.
It's not looking nice, so we'll probably be inside.
No problem.
Okay. Okay.
Many of you have signed up already for the wildflower walk at Charlestown State Park. If you haven't yet done so, you can still do so. Or you can email me through March the 20th if you want to go on that wildflower walk. It's at 2 p.m. on Thursday, April the 3rd. And there's information about my email if you want to just send that to me. While I'm here down on letter N, our next meeting is April Fool's Day, April the 1st, but no fool, Bonnie Cummings will be with us that night, and we're going to be having a wonderful slide presentation on Gardens of Scotland from her tour over there. So I do urge you to be there for that event next meeting.
Is it me next? Oh, Jean's next? Oh, it's okay. Jean, you're already here, so I'll let you go and then I'll get us going.
Okay, so please send in recipes for our upcoming cruciferous cookbook. And that's all the cabbagey, kinds of things. There's a whole list in the last newsletter. Then I'm going to read these real quickly. We have heard from 4 vendors, and I thought rather than waiting till the next newsletter to let you know, you might want to be buying things soon. So Wallach's Nursery on Hikes in Lowell is offering 15% on plants only. Old Time Log House Gardens in Otisco is 12% off on regularly priced plants. McCoy's in Charlestown is 10% off on plants only. And then Grantline Nursery, which is just down the street, has the most things available, 10% off on regularly priced plants, but also 10% on gift items, tools, seeds, fertilizers, treatments, garden decor, and pottery. So as that list increases, it will be in the next newsletter.
So for those of you on Zoom land who weren't here to get your membership card, they will be at my office. You will need to stop by and get them. We're not mailing them out, or you pick them up in April.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I meant to say for anybody who's new, you need to show that in order to get your discount. I've got just a couple of slots that we still need to fill for April 5th. And then did you decide you wanted anybody for the 15th or the 13th?
Who's the 13th?
The open house.
Oh, no, the open house is good.
Okay, so we don't need that. So I'm just going to set it up here. As you leave, if you would like to fill those couple of slots, that would be lovely.
Yep, that's it. All right. Okay, now we're to me, right? Okay, sorry, I'm like rushing everybody. Okay. April meeting, same time, 6:30. No. Oh, yeah. So 6:30, the April meeting will be a different location. You'll get that emailed out. We'll make sure that everybody hears where it's at. It's not going to be in Floyd County. Okay, that much we do know. Other questions on Zoom? No. Okay. So Pollinator Day is fast approaching. If you haven't signed up to volunteer yet, I do have the cards if you want to scan to do the QR code and sign up to volunteer. We have 2 different groups that are offering to volunteer that day. Republic Bank and Central Credit Union are coming back to volunteer. So make sure to thank them when they show up because they want to help. We need volunteers to do some desserts for Pollinator Day for the volunteer lunch. Lisa has a sign up in the back. You can also pay for your shirts and tote bags if you order them, because this is year number 10. We've been doing this event for 10 years now, folks. Time flies when we're having fun. Connie Hosapple mentioned about for Sunnyside Master Gardener booth having garden items. If you have some other crafty stuff that is really more pollinator versus garden, you can also give that to the Friends of Pollinators group that sells. So they also kind of have a little pot of money to help make ends meet for Pollinator Day because it gets a little expensive. And I have a really random request not related to Pollinator Day at all. Extension homemakers, which we don't have in Floyd County, there are still some in Clark County, are having their district meeting on March 26th in Scott County. And they wanted someone to come and speak for about 15 minutes on pollinators. Anybody live near Scottsburg that wants to go, it starts around 10. You have to be there at like 10:45. You have to speak for 15 minutes and you get lunch out of the homemakers. If you're interested, let me know soon because I need to let them know if anybody's going to be able to be there. I can't. I have another meeting to be at that day. This isn't going to apply. You might have a friend that this applies to, but I told Katie I would let you all know. So there is, it's called EFMNP, is an enrollment for people that sell at farmers markets. They sell produce and stuff. There's a way to enroll to accept WIC and SNAP benefits and stuff. We're doing a sign up in Floyd County for all the surrounding markets, whether it's Clark, Harrison, on March 18th. If you have a friend that sells at the markets and might be interested, I have a few flyers to take. And I think the final thing I have is the one person that's here to get their badge. Connie Smith earned her gold 3,000. So I'll meet her halfway real quick.
Okay, so while you're meeting her, I'll keep going. Happy birthday. When we gotta sing happy birthday, we don't have time. You're gonna tell me we don't have time. I could even, I'm gonna sing it for you in Polish when we get done here, Connie. So we mentioned already, next meeting is not going to be here. It is going to be, Diane was kind enough to make us arrangements. It's going to be at the Clarksville Library, which is at 1312 Eastern Boulevard. Do we have a room? I don't remember. Room A and B. So that's where we will be next time, and then we'll be back here then the following month.
Yeah, we're pretty sure.
Well, we're pretty sure, we're not sure.
We don't know.
It's still up in the air, so we're winging it, but, again, thank you guys for being so flexible. Other than that, we will have snacks at the next meeting, so anybody who wants to bring them, go ahead. I guess just call for a motion.
Wait,
Wait.
Veronica, what's our hours? We got,
Yeah,
is it
hours.
45 for advanced? Okay, so 1 hour on Zoom land. Okay, 1 hour on Zoom land, for advance, and, half an hour or 0.5 for advance, or yeah, for volunteer. Sorry, my brain's shutting down.
Calling for a motion to adjourn.
Taryn Bohannon motions to adjourn.
Second.
Marino's got the second. All right.
Everybody say aye. What's the other thing?
Anybody opposed to leaving right now?
Oh.
Fantastic. You all have a good night.
Do I have to pull some of these?